What's up, everybody? This is Trey Biddy with HawgSports.com. That's HAWG Sports.com. Today, we're going to talk Razorback football, basketball, baseball, as always. We're going to talk some recruiting with Danny West. Pete Roulier is going to join us also. We're going to answer your questions as we always do. It's all happening on Hog Sports Live. Well, today I want to open the show. I want to do something fun. I want to do a little top 10 Razorback thing. I've seen a lot of lists out there on social media and on YouTube and other places listing the top 10 Razorbacks, and I'm just kind of like, it looks like you just kind of went down the list and went over the stats from last year. So I've got a little bit of projection and things like that I wanted to do with this top 10 list for Razorback football next year. Let's go ahead and get started. First, we got an honorable mention candidate. Excuse me. Connor Limpert, Arkansas kicker Connor Limpert. I didn't want to put him in the top 10 because he's a kicker. Sorry, Connor. But guy went 19 of 24 last year, 29 of 29 on extra points, 2 of 3 from 50 yards with a long of 55 against Vanderbilt. And as a career is 27 of 33 on field goals. That's 81.8%. It's a pretty solid field goal kicker. I feel like he's gotten a lot better at getting his kickoffs deeper and would expect him to further improve in that area. Went on scholarship last year, so an honorable mention nod for Connor Limpert. Number 10, Monteric Brown. Now, Monteric Brown is a bit of a projection pick. You go over his stats from last year. He played in all 11 games. He started 3 of them. He had 9 tackles. That's not a lot, but he is a former 4-star recruit and started the last game last year due to a suspension for Ryan Pulley. But from everything that we've gathered throughout the spring, Monteric Brown had a really, really solid 15 practices, had like 5 interceptions or something at last check. So Monteric Brown is your number 10 Razorback heading into next year. Again, it's more of a projection pick, not just based on what they did last year. Now, before I get into the rest of the top 10, I want to remind everybody to go ahead and start getting your questions in for Danny. He's going to join us here in a little bit, so get your questions in for Danny West. If you got any baseball questions for Pete Roulier, also get those in as well. I want to remind you to go ahead and like, share, follow, comment. If you haven't thrown us that thumbs up yet at the start of the video, you like the content that we produce in other videos as well, go ahead and throw us that thumbs up. If you like what we're doing, also, if you're listening on podcast, then I want to go ahead and encourage you to throw us 5 stars and also give us that rating as well. You can listen in many different ways. You can listen here on Facebook Live. You can listen on YouTube. We always have it on Hog Sports. And you can also listen on podcast via Apple Podcast, Stitcher, and Spotify. So a lot of different ways to tune into the show. All right, let's get back to it. Number 9, again, a bit of a projection pick, Dorian Gerald, Arkansas senior defensive end. 21 tackles last year, 2.5 tackles for loss, started 3 games. The thing about Dorian Gerald that I like is his upside. He's a guy that came in overweight last year, was really just a few days before the start of fall camp, so got off to a late start out of junior college, was 280-something pounds, 285 pounds, down to 260-something right now. So he's lost a lot of weight. His move also allows McTelvin Agim to move inside, which I think is also critical and another reason that he is valuable. So Dorian Gerald, not the biggest defensive end at 6'3", 269. I should say that from a height-wise length standpoint, but a guy that has a lot of ability. I think is going to make a nice impact last year. And really, when you talk about his addition, you've got Dorian Gerald, McTelvin Agim, T.J. Smith, and Gabe Richardson right now are the 4 defensive linemen. They're all seniors, so I think that's probably going to be the strong suit of this team next year. So Dorian Gerald, a bit of a projection pick, but Dorian Gerald is my number 9 Razorback right now. Cameron Curl, safety. Cameron Curl is my number 8 pick, and I think that Cameron has a lot of ability too. Last year he started. Well, let's just go back to how his career played out. As a true freshman, Ryan Pulley was hurt in the first game, and then Cameron Curl moved in and played cornerback, started cornerback basically every game there, and was picked on a lot. You know, there were times where he was in good position and stuff, but he was just picked on so much that he gave up a bunch of plays. I thought he made a positive move to safety last year, started every game but the last one for a suspension, had 53 tackles. He's got 99 for his career. The one thing that stands out to me about Cameron, though, is he's got no interceptions. No interceptions after starting almost every game last year and almost every game as a freshman, no interceptions. So he needs to pick that area up, but I think that he has the ability to be a leader heading into his junior year for Arkansas. Number 7, Bumper Pool. Again, a bit of a projection pick by me, but when you look at what he did last year, he started 4 games, a lot of it because obviously Dre Greenlaw was injured, but had 29 tackles, 2.5 tackles for loss. The number that stands out to me is 4 pass defenses. So the only guys that had more pass defended than him was Dijon Harris, who had 5, who was a starting linebacker all year, Jarquez McClellan, and Ryan Pulley, who were your starting cornerbacks. So Bumper Pool, who was a backup linebacker last year, had the 4th most pass deflections on the team. What stood out to me last year was the amount of plays that he made in such a short amount of time on the field. Now, he made a lot of errors. There's no question he made errors. And that's something that just comes with freshman linebackers. Anybody who's, subscribed to HawgSports or listens to me on the radio or listens to this podcast knows that I hate freshman linebackers. I don't hate Bumper Pool, but I just don't like seeing those guys in starting roles. Support backup roles, sure, but what you're always going to see is those guys are going to make, as talented as they are, they're going to make as many mistakes as they make plays. So Bumper Pool, now having gone through 2 springs, although he was out for a lot of the first spring, but having gone through 2 springs, a full solid year on campus plus some, I think you're going to see a huge jump with him starting at the will linebacker spot. Going to be a much needed position, a position they need to keep healthy because they're just not very depth at linebacker. All right, the one stipulation I had on this list is I wanted to do all guys that were coming back, had at least been here for the spring, but there's one change because my number 6 spot goes to either Ben Hicks or Nick Starkel. One of these 2 quarterbacks I think is going to be needed to be one of your top 10 players. I've got it at 6 right now. It's just a projection on, and really it's due to some other guys that I think are definitely in your top 5. So if you look at Ben Hicks, the positives with him is he threw for 3,500 yards last year, 33 touchdowns. Not last year, but his last year under Chad Morris. 33 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. The thing that you have to like about him is he has so much experience playing under Chad Morris, more experience than anybody on Arkansas's roster, and had a lot of success, albeit on a lower level. The thing that you like about Nick Starkel, he threw for almost 1,800 yards in 2017, 14 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. This is his year as a starter. He was injured. He had a broken ankle, I believe. It was a broken ankle and missed a lot of starts when they had Kellen Mond in there replacing him. But his last game as a starter came against West Virginia, had 499 passing yards, 4 touchdowns, and an interception in a game that they lost like 55-51 or something like that. So I do think both of those guys have a lot of potential. Hicks mainly because he's been in the system and he's going through the spring. I think those are benefits to him. Starkel, I think, has more physical upside, but he's also played on a bigger level. He won the starting job at Texas A&M under Kevin Sumlin, so that's definitely notable. All right, so those 2 quarterbacks, one of those guys, I've got him in the top 6. I didn't want to put him in the top 5 just because of a little bit more unknown. But speaking of that unknown, here's my number 5 guy. Trey Knox. Wide receiver Trey Knox. No stats last year. The guy's just a baller. I think what you got a little bit of a glimpse of it in the red-white game with that 45-yard touchdown catch. He seemed to catch a touchdown in, I guess, every scrimmage. The thing that stood out to me about Knox is not just his size. I knew he was going to be big at 6'5", all of 6'5", by the way. He's one of these guys that is absolutely 6'5", maybe taller, long arms, just a great frame. But the quickness is what stood out to me. I was surprised at how fast he got in and out of cuts, and it really took one move. He did a double move on the first practice, and I was just like, wow, this guy's got it. I don't know how long it's going to take Trey Knox to emerge, but eventually he is going to emerge. I could see him having the same type of impact like a Marcus Monk had for Arkansas. So Trey Knox, and I think he's going to be the best wide receiver on the team. Now, there are some other guys like Mike Woods I wanted to put in there, but I just feel like Trey Knox has this special ability where we're going to see him on the next level one day. Number 4, McTelvin, Sosa, Agim. Now, McTelvin has the possibility to be number one on this list. He's got the physical ability. I think the addition of a guy like Dorian Gerald makes him even more valuable because now he's able to work more on the inside. Now, I hear people say he needs to add more weight and stuff like that. He's about 280 pounds. I think that's about a good weight for a 3-tech, which he'll mostly play. I mean, he'll shift. Obviously, he'll be a 1-technique also, but most of those defensive tackles in the NFL you see, about 280 to 300 pounds. I think he fits that mold pretty well. You want him to continue to be a good pass rusher. He had 10 tackles for loss last year. He was second on the team with 4.5 sacks. And tied for first with 3 forced fumbles. So I think McTelvin Agim has. I think we're going to see him in the NFL draft. We'll talk a little bit about the NFL draft coming up here too, but we're going to see him in the NFL draft next year. So McTelvin Agim on number 4 spot. It gets hard here when you're talking about the top 5. Number 3, Rakeem Boyd. Rakeem Boyd, who missed the entire spring this year. This is a guy that got off to an extremely slow start. He arrived a week before fall camp last year. And then in the next 2 months, they put 15 pounds on the guy. He had a shoulder issue all of last year that kept him out. There was the Ole Miss game where he got hurt. I feel like if they keep Rakeem Boyd in that game, then I think that that Arkansas ends up winning the game. I think he had his 69-yard run in that game, if I'm not mistaken. But he had 8 starts last year. It really happened when Debwall Whaley went down with an injury. 123 carries for 734 yards, 6 yards per carry, only 2 touchdowns, and as I mentioned, that long of 69. But if he comes back fully healthy from the shoulder injury, and like I said, he only practiced a little bit this past spring and was all in a yellow jersey, which means no contact whatsoever. It was just taking a few handoffs here and there. But if he comes back fully from this shoulder injury and is able to stay healthy, this is a 1,000-yard back who's going possibly to the NFL as a junior next year. So he was definitely Arkansas's biggest playmaker when he was healthy last season out of the backfield. And they're going to be okay. They got to stay healthy. Debwall is another guy you could make an argument could be on this list too. Debwall doesn't necessarily have the breakaway type of speed that Boyd has, not quite on that level, but he's still a very good player. Okay, number 2, Cheyenne OGrady. He just has to get out of his own way. OGrady last season was suspended very early, so he missed the first 2 games. He was suspended early because of off-field stuff, and it's always something like that heading into the season with OGrady. The guy has a world of ability. He was Arkansas's one real playmaker in the passing game. Mike Wood started to emerge there, but OGrady is a guy that if you can get the ball to him, he can be consistent. I heard, all kinds of stuff about Razorback wide receivers last year. They're not getting the ball to them. They're not making plays because they can't get the ball. OGrady didn't seem to have a hard time making plays. I mean, this is a guy, again, who had trouble getting out of his own way early, has always had some maturity issues that he'll be the first to tell you about. And hopefully this last go-around is his – he can go to the NBA – or the NBA. He can go to the NFL. C.J. OGrady can go to the NFL, but he has got to keep his nose clean. He's got to stay on the field, but he can be a real weapon. I mean, 30 catches for 400 yards. He could have 800 yards this year. He absolutely could, or better. I mean, he could be Arkansas's go-to guy. 30 catches for 400 yards, 6 touchdowns, and again, just needs to get out of his own way. But C.J. OGrady has a world of ability, and really at the position that is the second most difficult position to learn on offense, the second most important position to learn in this offense is tight end because they're asked to do so much. There are so many things that we didn't see the tight ends do last year that I think that we'll start to see them do next year. All right, time for number 1, drum roll. Dijon Scooter Harris. Dijon Harris, I think everybody probably projected he'd be number 1 on this list. Not only is he the leader for the Razorback defense, he is the leader of the Razorbacks, all total. I mean, they're going to have some other guys step up in leadership roles like Ben Hicks or Nick Starkel and some of those guys, but Dijon Harris is definitely entrenched, has the respect of the entire team. AP second team All-SEC last year, led the SEC with 9.83 tackles per game. The second year in a row he was in the top 3. In total tackles, had 118 tackles. This is a guy that will be All-SEC again, and I guess is Arkansas's best linebacker possibly since Martrell Spate. I mean, Dre Greenlaw's up there. Dre dealt with a lot of injuries, but Dijon Harris, as far as being a middle linebacker, is way up there. So that's pretty much it. Let me know what you think, guys. If you like the list, if you got some changes that you would make to that list, let me know. And be sure to go ahead and get your questions in for Danny West. And speaking of Danny, we're going to go ahead and bring him in, get him on the horn real quick. Just bear with me real quick, and we'll bring Danny West in here. There we go.
What's up, Trey?
Danny West, how you doing, brother?
Doing good, man. What's going on today?
Oh, nothing. We just ran through our top 10 list. I don't know if you were able to listen. I did the top 10 Razorbacks. I'll go over them for order real quick with you. I went with Connor Limpert as an honorable mention, Monteric Brown at 10, Dorian Gerald at 9, Kramer and Curl at 8, Bumper Pool at 7, and then I went with a split, Nick Starkel or Ben Hicks at 6. I wanted to keep them outside the top 5, but I went with number 5, Trey Knox, 4, McTelvin Agim, 3, Rakeem Boyd, 2, C.J. O'Grady, and number 1, Dijon Harris. What do you think of my list?
I like Scooter up top. I'm with you on C.J. O'Grady. It's a money year. You know, he's fixing to make some money.
He's just got to get out of his own way.
I agree. It'd be tough for me to not put Sosa at number 2 or 3. I think he's set. I think this is going to be the one. You know, we keep waiting on Sosa to have that humongous year that we kind of always expected from him, but I think this might be it.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I'm with you on that list. Cameron Curl might be moving up for me. I'm not sure. I thought he had a really good spring, so
he did.
Yeah, I can't argue with that list at all.
Yeah, I mean, we could move it around all kinds of ways. I like my top 5 a lot, even with Trey Knox as a projection pick, and who knows how long it'll take him to emerge. So I guess jumping kind of into recruiting, Danny, you had a Wednesday notebook with another target set and an official visit, and, of course, a lot of other stuff going on in recruiting. I guess the coaches were off Monday, but back out on the road now?
Yeah, they're back out on the road. Justin Stepp is down in Mississippi. He was in New Orleans yesterday and the day before, so he's been all over. I think Coach Traylor yesterday was in Iowa. He went up to Iowa Western Community College, checking out a slew of running backs up there that they've got. Barry Lunny's in Oklahoma today. He's going to be checking out a couple of JUCOs later this afternoon. I'm missing somebody. Coach Mark Smith is down in Dallas today. So, yeah, they're back at it. You mentioned the official visitor that we've added last night, Brandon Frazier, will be coming in next week. He's actually doing, as opposed to starting his visit on Friday, he's going to be coming in a day early, starting that visit next Thursday, running through Friday for his 48-hour visit. Really big-time target out of McKinney North, a tight end prospect, really big kid, and one that it wouldn't surprise me. I keep talking about it. You know, they've already got Alan Horace at the tight end spot in this year's class, and it wouldn't surprise me if Brandon is number 2. If not, they're starting to line up some new names that I'll be getting into either later this afternoon or early in the morning, some guys to keep an eye on. So, be looking for that. And then, of course, next weekend as well, you've got Jahari Rogers coming in, a 4-star cornerback out of Arlington, Texas. You've got
do you think Arkansas is the favorite for Rogers? What do you think on that? I saw him briefly listed on the 24/7 Sports database. It listed Arkansas as a favorite, and then I looked at it the next time and it was gone. So I don't know if somebody did that on accident or what.
Well, I'll be honest with you. I'm the one that took that off because, to my knowledge, that's not accurate. Okay. And we try our best to keep that thing. Yeah. From people who aren't even subscribed, they can go to a kid's profile page and come away with the wrong impression real quick. So, I tried to fix that. Now they're obviously in the mix, very much in the mix, or he wouldn't be coming in for an official next week. But yeah, I think Oklahoma may be in the mix there. Going to be tough to beat. Which, by the way, Ryan Watts, the 4-star corner, yes, he was slated to be in that coming next week, and obviously committed to Oklahoma over the weekend. So there's your annual guy that Arkansas finds before everybody else. They get in there, and he blows up, and then all of a sudden it's, thanks for the offer, but see ya. Yeah. You know what I mean? So
who was it last year? Majors, the Major kid?
Yeah, there were a couple last year. Yeah. Matter of fact, one, ironically, was another 4-star corner, ended up being a 4-star corner. Yeah. Peyton Powell, cornerback out of West Texas. I think he was Odessa, way out in West Texas. Well, Mark Smith found him early, and I'm not sure where he ended up.
The good thing about this
TCU
staff,
maybe.
though, Danny, the good thing about this staff is that there's enough guys like that they end up doing pretty well. You know, I can go back to Brett's staff, and it seemed like they would identify players. I mean, everybody identifies players, but they'd get stolen from them, you know, and there wasn't enough of them. So
Right.
they are in on enough of them. By the way, this Brandon Frazier guy, you mentioned big tight end, 6'7", 231 pounds. What's Gabe Brooks's evaluation, our regional recruiting guy who covers Texas, Arkansas, Oklahoma, Louisiana? What's his thoughts on Brandon Frazier?
Well, that's a good question. I would have to ask Gabe.
Well, I'm just wondering because he's ranked number 35 tight end nationally, 971, and you know he's got some good options out there. I just wonder. It feels like just looking at him, his options, you know, looking at the video of him, it seems like he'd be rated a little bit higher, and maybe one of those guys that's going to be rated higher, but isn't yet.
That's the category I would put him in, Trey. I mean, when you think, by the composite ranking, he's 35th tight end, and of course on 24/7 Sports rankings, he's 23rd tight end. Mm-hmm. I'm with you. I think that's probably a bit low. I'm not saying I'm not pushing him for 4-star, but probably an 87, 88 type guy. Based on what I've seen, the size, the production, the film that I've looked at, and of course the offer list. He's got some quality offers there. So, yeah, I don't want to speak for Gabe, obviously, but I do think he would probably agree that's Brandon may be moving up eventually.
Danny West joining us from HawgSports.com. Danny mentioned subscribers earlier. If you're not subscribed to HawgSports.com, there's a ton of stuff that you're not getting right now. We always find that people don't realize everything that we offer at HawgSports.com with our premium forum, the Razor's Edge, dropping news on there, all the insider information we provide, along with regular content. You can subscribe right now for $1. You can do a 7-day free trial right now if you sign up for a year and take 30% off your subscription, or you can sign up for your first month for $1 right now at HawgSports.com. It's HawgSports.com. Want to remind you real quick again to like, share, follow, comment on the video. If you haven't thrown us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, then go ahead and do that as well. Only if you like the video or podcast version of this. So, Danny, what else is going on in recruiting? There's a tight end out of Rutgers that's transferring that Arkansas is in the mix for also. You familiar with that?
Yeah, I am. But to be honest with you, Trey, I think Iowa, the Hawkeyes, are going to be pretty tough to beat. From what I understand, his father, I'm trying to look up his name now, but the young man's father coaches at Northern Iowa, and from what I hear, he's trying to get back closer to family. Mm-hmm. And, of course, the Hawkeyes are in the mix. And when you think about Iowa, man, I mean, tip your cap to them. They had 2 of the best tight ends in the country last year. They're producing them as well or better than Arkansas has. So, matter of fact, they just beat Arkansas for one of the 2020 tight end targets, Elijah Yelverton, a kid who's been up here a few times and committed to Iowa recently, despite the fact that they signed 3 high school tight ends last year. So that tells you a lot about what they're doing with that position. So, a name to keep an eye on, but,
Arkansas has bigger immediate needs than that.
Yeah, but I will say this, dude. Arkansas is looking for a veteran tight end. Mm-hmm. So I think what you're going to see is obviously they're going to sign 2 tight ends in the 2020 class, but don't be surprised if they find a transfer, even if he has to sit out this year like this kid would, I believe. Yeah. Eventually they're going to need a veteran tight end, and I do think they're loading up to try to find one. Even if he has to sit out a year, you've got to forecast to that next year's depth chart. And as we've talked about, it's getting pretty thin there. So a total of 3 tight ends potentially for this year. Yeah,
well, I don't blame him at all. I mean, I'd say, when you look at your immediate needs, you've got, defensive back, linebacker, obviously huge needs. They've addressed a couple of things like with Luke Jones at center. But if you look at 2020, then you're talking about Grayson Gunner and Hudson Henry.
That's as your tight ends. Travis, real quick, Trey. Travis Vokalek.
Yeah, I want to call him Volsky.
Volsky.
Yeah, that's what I thought when I first looked at it. But yeah, so that's a tight end situation. Basketball recruiting, obviously, there's a lot going on there. Gene Silla obviously committed, I guess, over the weekend, and Yesterday on Drive Time, Danny, I'm not going to say who, but somebody told me I was mispronouncing it. It's not Gene Tall, it's John Tall. So yesterday on Drive Time, I called him John Tall Silla, and then I looked it up again today just to make sure because I felt pretty sure it was Gene Tall, and it is Gene Tall. So yesterday I called him John Tall all day yesterday. But he's a much-needed guy, 6'7", 215-pound guy that, you could say he could play inside or outside. A decent three-point shooter, decent rebounder, guy that can play above the rim some, but also has a perimeter game and an 84% free throw shooter. We've talked about several of the other guys. Kyrie Walker, I think everybody wants Kyrie Walker. And then there are some options like Kadeem Sy. You want a big guy. So Kadeem Sy, Kerry Blackshear out of Virginia Tech, and who's the other one? The Brooks kid out of Cincinnati would be another one that's a big guy. So, but you released the Big Red Board for basketball recruiting. We've always done that for football recruiting. And the reason Danny did that is because somebody asked. Somebody on the Razor's Edge message board said, hey, how about a basketball recruiting board? So Danny put it together. And then right after that, you put a baseball recruiting board together.
Yeah, somebody was giving me, I think it was Yeager, or Buddy Yeager. Of course, he's been with us a long time on there. He kind of made a little smart aleck comment, well, what about baseball? So what he failed to realize is that I'm a smart aleck too. Mm-hmm. So I had to go ahead and dive into it for baseball. So
Yeager fires stuff at me too all the time. We have fun.
He's a good dude. He's a really good dude. But, yeah, on the basketball recruiting front, Trey, Jair Grayer coming in next Monday for an official visit. Obviously, the guy out of George Mason, 6'5" guard, wing, whatever you want to call him. And, again, he's going to be he's kind of relying on the NCAA to give him a fifth year of eligibility. Obviously, he's dealt with some injuries there. So Jair's coming in next Monday. And then the guy that I really like, and we keep talking about Arkansas needs big man, but this is another 6'3" guard coming out of High Point, Jihad Proctor. Yeah. That's the guy I really like.
19 points a game.
Yeah, 19 a game. I mean, you'll take that all day. So, he's going to be coming in May 3rd through the 5th, so that will be next weekend, I guess. Man, the spring's getting away from us,
It is.
It's starting to, before you know it, you'll be going to SEC football media days.
Oh, my gosh, don't say that.
Yeah. So, a lot going on there. And then, as you touched on, the baseball recruiting front, I think a lot of people need to go check that out. Think about this, Trey. If Arkansas had the number 2 rated football or basketball recruiting class right now for the class of 2020, we would be writing about that thing every single day, every day. And so I do think it's fair and deserved that we write about that baseball recruiting class. I mean, you heard Dave Van Horn talk before the season. And, he's not one to really throw out a lot of bold comments, but he did say in his introductory press conference or preseason press conference, he did say, if I can keep that 20 class together, it's got a real chance. So just the fact that he would go out and say something like that tells you, it's probably a pretty good class because they're already pretty good, buddy.
Yeah, they are. Danny West joining us here. Danny, do you realize we're less than a week out from our 1-year anniversary of moving to 24/7 Sports?
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying, man. It seems like it's flown by, and I think we've accomplished a lot in our first year. Still a long way to go. Yeah. We want to keep growing this thing, but I think what you've done with Facebook Live, and of course we started the Hog Hustle show, and it's been a real hit for us, as well as this show here. So it's been busy. I think we both agreed going into it last year. For this first year, man, we're just, it's not going to be a lot of time off. So, and that's paid off.
Well, that's what I thought for 3 years. I thought it'd be a 3 year. I actually thought
I was
where we were.
We could limit that to 1, and I could take off the next 6 months after the anniversary.
It took us 4 months from a subscriber standpoint to get where I thought we'd be after 2 years. So, first of all, just thanks to everybody for believing in us and for understanding the move that we made and why we made it. I mean, if you look at some of the changes we made, I mean, we're everywhere. I mean, our product is out there, the backing of CBS, some of the things that I felt strongly about. But I mean, it was tough starting out, but it was just amazing to see just the flood of support, people coming over and following us. I mean, we're way bigger from a subscriber standpoint than we ever were before. And it's been a huge hit moving over, and like I said, it was a 3 year total plan. But I wanted to get back to our normal subscriber numbers after 2 years, and like I said, it took 4 months to get there. So just overwhelmed with that, and all the other things we've been able to do. Our reach on Facebook here, and just all the other things that we're able to do. It's been pretty amazing. Danny, you want to get to a couple of questions here?
Oh,
real
sure.
quick before we
I'm
cut
here
you out.
all day.
We're gonna be joined by Pete Roulier here in a little bit. We're doing an extra long show today. I'm going to test how things are with people's viewership for maybe go just a little bit longer than we normally do. But Steve Culver asked, we going to get a LB grad transfer, also need a punter. Those are two areas that they absolutely need help in. I mean, you don't necessarily have to get a grad transfer punter, and you don't really, I don't know if they have room to get a grad transfer punter, but you can get a guy at a high school, that could hopefully come in and punt, but they need help in both those areas. Thoughts?
Yeah, they do. Well, every week, every Monday morning, I kind of wake up and say, maybe this is the week they get a grad transfer linebacker, And, I'm just kind of joking, but, I mean, it just seems like if it were going to happen, I thought it would have already happened. Of course, we saw the guy from Troy. He just kind of fell off the board. Maybe they found something they didn't like there, but I had him tagged early. I thought it made a lot of sense to bring him in, but apparently that fell through. So, if they are on anybody going into the summer here, I haven't heard it. So just to be honest with you, I haven't seen much movement there. In terms of punter.
There's also, Danny, you have to consider that a lot of names will be coming out in the grad transfer portal as soon as the semester ends. Yeah,
as a lot of teams, are still wrapping up spring football. Maybe that's a possibility. So I don't know. I've seen you punt a football a time or two, Trey. Maybe you could help them out. I don't know.
I wish I had punted in college. I think I could have done it. I don't have the leg now at 41 years old, but back in the day, I used to punt for Sheridan.
Hey, by the way,
I think I could have competed right now. Do what?
Keep going back to the baseball recruiting. Did you notice they've got a couple of kids from Sheridan?
Yeah, in 2 different classes.
Coming up to play baseball.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's right. So,
hey, Sheridan has always been strong in baseball. It's always been strong in baseball.
Yellow Jackets.
I'll never forget. It was like 2 or 3 years after I graduated, they got in that huge brawl with Benton. Was it Benton? I think it was Benton. Benton came back on them in the state championship game, and they got in that big brawl. But
I don't remember it.
It was one of the top 10 news stories in Arkansas that year. When everybody does their end of the year thing.
Congratulations!
I think the headline was Benton wins state championship, Sheridan wins the fight.
Oh, that's awesome. I love Sheridan. Love it.
All right, Danny, let's see what else we got here. If you had to predict, this is from Courtney Pugh, if you had to predict the next football commit, who do you think it would be?
Well, that's a good question. Obviously, you've got 3 guys that we're aware of coming in next week. We talked about Jahari Rogers. I would be hesitant to call him a real strong possibility, but the other 2, Brandon Frazier, the tight end out of McKinney North, Texas. Yeah. I would keep a really close eye on him. And Garrett Hayes is just, he's kind of he's a hard guy to read. A kid out of Athens, Texas, 4-star offensive lineman that they've been on for well over a year. Wouldn't surprise me, but then again, nothing would surprise me with Garrett Hayes. He's, just to be transparent with you, he's probably one of my favorite recruits to talk to at this point. I do a lot of Snapchat, Trey. You can teach an old dog new tricks. So he and I like to do Snapchat, and I really enjoy talking to that kid. But, I would probably look at one of those 2 guys, just because they're coming in next weekend.
Mm-hmm. How are your allergies doing, Danny? Mine are finally starting to kick in. I thought I was going to get through without any allergies, but they're finally.
Well, I'm finally starting to clear up a little bit.
You are. We've got different types of pollen, I guess.
Yeah, we needed this rain though to knock some of it down. You know?
Absolutely.
So I
went down to Little Rock over the weekend, and everything was yellow. Everything's covered in yellow.
Yeah.
So Keith Grayson, I brought his graphic up a second ago. It says Arkansas safeties can't be in your top 10 until we see some production. Come on, dude.
He's a show me guy. And he's right, Trey. I mean, you think about it, every year we hype somebody up. Mm-hmm. And it's not really our fault because they are impressive in spring or whatever. And then we put all these expectations out there, and they get out there on the field. And, I'm not saying Cam Curl's going to do that. Mm-hmm. But, I thought he looked good this spring, really good. Matter of fact, I said I might even have him higher in my list. But, I mean, there is when you're 2-10 and you've got that kind of defense, I mean, it is hard to put individuals, too high on the list like that.
Mm-hmm. A lot of people are going after Keith, which happens.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they don't.
That's good. He probably deserves it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's no question he deserves it. Let's see what else we got here. Ooh. That'd be right. A lot of comments, no comments. Terry says, this is Terry Roy, who's always controversial.
He blocked me on Twitter, Terry. Take me off of that, man.
Terry, come on. Take him off Twitter. I got Keith's graphic still up. Terry says, I learned not to pay attention to sports writers. Most are good at writing.
That's why he blocked me.
Yeah. He probably didn't
Never
like that I left.
Terry, just leave me blocked.
He probably didn't like that I left Devil off the top 10 list, but
yeah, he might be on something.
Hey, I strongly consider.
I like Terry. Terry's a really good guy.
Oh, he's definitely informed. There's no question. We get at odds every once in a while, but definitely respect his opinion. Brandon Davis says he hopes to see Sosa break out this year. Won't hold his breath though. Bumper's Pool's freshman year was more impressive than anything he's seen from a game so far. Let's see if I got any other questions for you, Danny. What's the deal with Blaine Toll from Hazen? You got the answer on that. Spill it.
Just throw that one at me.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Well, Blaine, I think, is really filling that Oklahoma offer. I think they're one of the most recent offers for him. He took a trip out there, and, you're going to have that, man. An in-state guy that blows up. Arkansas was a little bit late to the party in terms of offering. Obviously, they were early to the party in terms of getting on him, evaluating him, bringing him to a lot of camps. So they've done their homework, man. I'll put it that way. And, again, you've had guys leave the state, and that's okay. But from what I understand, Oklahoma really made a strong impression for him. So we'll see where he goes from here. But I like Blaine a lot. Whoever gets him is going to get a guy with a lot of potential, maybe not, four-star status like everybody's looking at. Maybe I would put him as a high 3, just based on potential. But I do think he's got a lot of potential. So, we'll see.
Garrett Haley says, Keith Grayson, you seem like the type of guy who eats cereal with a fork. Oh, it's good.
Getting on him.
Yep. So, Danny, I guess we'll go ahead and let you go. I want to ask everybody, if you like what Danny West brought to the show today, go ahead and throw that thumbs up. If you haven't, be sure to like, share, follow, comment on the video. If you haven't subscribed to HawgSports.com, like I said, it's $1 for your first month if you want to try it out. Or you can sign up for a year, take a 7-day free trial, get 30% off your first year. Danny, any last words to add before we move on to Pete Roulier?
No, go ahead and move on to him. I'll be on Out of Bounds today at 1:30 as opposed to 2 o'clock because of the baseball game starting at 3 today. So that'll be my next appearance.
I got you. So be sure to tune in to Danny West later today on Out of Bounds 103.7 The Buzz. One of our great partners, 103.7 The Buzz, do a lot of good stuff. We also have the Hog Hustle show, which I guess will be on tomorrow, which is aired at, what is it going to be, at 8 o'clock? It's usually at 7 o'clock on Tuesdays on the Hog on 103.7 The Buzz in Central Arkansas. So, and you can listen to that via podcast also. So, all right, Danny, appreciate you joining us, man.
All right, man. We'll see you.
Bye. All right, we're going to go ahead and move straight on into Pete Roulier. Going to get Pete on the phone here, and he's going to discuss the latest in Razorback baseball. Arkansas won 19-2, hammered Northwestern State yesterday.
Howdy.
Hey, Pete, you're on Hog Sports Live. Thanks for joining us. We're going to talk a little Razorback baseball. We've gone a while here. We're at 38 minutes into the show, so this is our longest show that we've ever had, just kind of testing out how the traffic goes for something like that. So 19-2, they hammered them, called the last of the second part, bottom of the ninth inning due to rain. You think they're going to play today?
I didn't think they were going to play today, but now I'm sipping my coffee, getting ready for the game because it looks like it's going to happen. I'm actually in the middle of Fayetteville here, and it's clear skies, man. I didn't expect it to happen, but talking about the ninth inning, I think everyone in the stands is ready to go. Once the rain came, everyone's girlfriend, mom, everyone was out of there. But it looked like Van Horn wanted to get that last inning in. Yeah. He put the tarp on, the rain stopped, and he went to go check the dirt and said he couldn't do it. But, yeah.
You hear that, Dan Stoff? Pete Roulier says you're full of crap. You don't know what you're talking about.
I don't know why. Yeah, I guess with
it's hard to be a weatherman, Pete.
I know. I've kind of got thrown in that role a little bit covering baseball, trying to figure out what's going to happen. And I'm not good at it. I'll be honest. I'm not a great weatherman, but I try my best.
Yeah. So Pete Roulier joining us here, our lead baseball guy, does a lot of other things for us at HawgSports.com, pounds out a lot of articles. You can read all this stuff at HawgSports.com. So what else is going on in Hog Baseball? Who do they have this weekend after the Northwestern State? And I guess this is the last midweek series. There's one next week also, and then that's it, I think.
Yeah, there's a game against Grambling that's going to be in Little Rock.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're trying to do that every year.
Yeah.
So besides that, yes, this will be the last midweek game, which is, I think is nice for everybody just kind of get into the groove. Like
mm-hmm.
this is the competition you're gonna be playing every day from now on. So nothing easy anymore. It's the last midweek game. They're gonna be throwing a bunch of freshman pitchers to see if anybody's gonna step up and maybe find a role in the rotation. So it's a big day for those freshmen. Honestly, this is their last chance to kind of show coach what they can do. And but in terms of next weekend, they're taking on Tennessee, who has kind of got off to a rough start in SEC play, getting swept by Auburn. But I mean, Georgia's probably the best team in the SEC right now in terms of play. Maybe you could put Arkansas in there, but Georgia and Arkansas are definitely at the top of the SEC. And 2 weekends ago, Tennessee took 2 or 3 games against Georgia, and then last week they went ahead and swept Kentucky.
Mm-hmm.
And coached by Tony Vitello, who's a former assistant at Arkansas. He's really turned the program around. He's done a great job. They're going to be tough, and that's just what happens right at this point in the year.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see how that one goes. It's going to be a bomb, and the Razorbacks have been killing it in bomb. I think they're on a 6-game winning streak. I'm pretty sure it's a 6-game winning streak. And all a bomb, so that they're going to try to take advantage of this opportunity and get as many wins as they can, like they have.
Mm-hmm. Pete Roulier joining us here. So Arkansas and Northwestern State slated to play at 3 o'clock today in Baum Walker Stadium. Arkansas is 31-10 right now. So Pete, you just wrote an article on the NFL draft, and Arkansas has got 4 hopefuls. There's obviously a lot more players that are hoping to get in there, but Arkansas has got 4 hopefuls: Armand Watts, Ryan Pulley, Yelda Froholt, and Dijon Harris. So those are the 4 guys that we kind of got our eye on. Obviously, none of those – not Dijon Harris, excuse me, Dre Greenlaw. Dijon Harris is still at Arkansas, thankfully. So all 4 of those guys have a decent chance to get drafted. None of them are going to get drafted tomorrow. Most likely, none of them are going to get drafted Friday either.
Right.
Who do you think is going to be the first guy off the board?
It's going to be Froholt. I'm almost positive it's going to be Froholt.
Mm-hmm.
Just because he's been highly touted for years.
Yeah, he's been the guy that most people have projected to go first.
And if you look at a bunch of stuff that comes out on CBS Sports, even a little bit on 24/7, if Arkansas hadn't have gone 2-10, I think it might have been a different story for Froholt. He's really an under-the-radar guy that a lot of people love. Yeah, and a lot of teams will like what they saw. And, of course, he's just a good guy, so he's impressed every team he's been with.
Yeah, he's strong. He didn't run a terrible 40. He's smart. Obviously, he can play center, can play guard also. So
athletic, too. So he did well in his 3-cone and the short shuttle, which is, I mean, when you're talking about an offensive lineman, you don't have to run very far. So short shuttle.
I could see Armand Watts having a decent NFL career. I mean, he's a guy that didn't emerge until his last year, didn't run a very good 40 time, but, I mean, got into the backfield a ton last year, played very well against Alabama. That's something that's going to stand out to a lot of teams also. I think Ryan Pulley has a lot of ability to potentially make an NFL roster. When I say a lot of ability, I'm not talking like these guys are going to be stars or anything, but I think Pulley has the potential to make an NFL roster. And I think Dre Greenlaw is somebody that could possibly fill in at the safety or maybe a linebacker hybrid safety type of role. You see more and more of that in the NFL these days. So I could see him possibly fitting in somewhere like that. So you watch NBA any, Pete? You keeping up with the playoffs?
I have been watching the NBA, and after the game, I think it was after the game last night, I was just checking on Twitter, and then I saw the Oklahoma City and the Portland game, and just watching tweets on the way home, just going back and forth. Now they're tied. Now they're not tied. And then Dame Lillard with that amazing shot. That was incredible.
Yeah, it is.
Next question.
Let's see. Tonight you've got what do you got? You got Jazz Rockets tonight, and then you've got Clippers Warriors. So those are the 2 games tonight. And then you've got tomorrow, you've got Nuggets Spurs. And then I guess it's to be determined everything after that. So, all right, Pete, I think we've gone about 45 minutes here, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap you up unless you got any last words of wisdom you want to offer.
Any last words of wisdom? I can go back to what you said about the NFL, and I was reading some interesting things about some mock drafts where the Chiefs took Dre Greenlaw, and I thought that was a really good fit for him because they like to have some help on special teams. And if you've watched Trey Greenlaw in Arkansas, then you know that he's a hard worker. He's going to give it his all. It's great for him on special teams, but they're also moving to a 4-3 defense, and I think that'd be perfect for Dre. So I think that'd be interesting to look out, and that'd be a good landing spot for him. And that's all I got for you today.
Yep. All right, Pete. Thank you for joining us, man. All right, that was Pete Roulier, our lead baseball guy that also does basketball, football, recruiting, all that kind of stuff. So let's see what else we got here. Let's answer a few questions, then I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. I want to remind you real quick again, go ahead and throw us that like if you haven't. Throw us that thumbs up. Rate us 5 stars on podcast. So Dustin Hoofman says, how well do you think the team is growing in the Morris system? I think they're going to take a huge leap this year just because it's year 2. Morris has said they taught the culture last year. This year he expects them to live the culture. So that's where things are right now with Razorback football, but you also got to consider they're going to take a big leap because they've improved the quarterback position. Really have improved everything. When you look at next year's roster, they're going to be mostly Chad Morris recruits on the roster, and everybody who doesn't want to buy in is really gone. I mean, they've had 17 players enter the transfer portal over the last year, and 31 players leave the team early over the last 17 months or so. Terry says, I understand lists are for likes and ads, so there's other guys who belong on the list, like John White. John White. I'm not sure what you mean there, Terry. The former chancellor. He doesn't belong on the list. Dustin Hoofman says, any chance Curtis Washington gets in the starting lineup with his performance lately? I think there's a potential. I mean, the guy's been hitting the ball extremely well. All right, everybody. I want to thank everybody for joining us here. I don't know if anything else I can add about throwing us a like or thumbs up or sharing the video, following the page, all that kind of good stuff. We'll be back on here next week to discuss Razorback sports. We'll jump on if there's any kind of breaking news. We'll jump on for that kind of stuff too. But again, if you like the video, be sure to tell your friends. So for Pete Roulier, for Danny West, this has been Trey Biddy with HawgSports.com. We'll catch you next time.